Right. What we're going to be doing today is giving you guys an overview of the ZONEMIX system, a quick rundown on what BARIX is and how it all fits together and what you can do with it, and an introduction to a brand called HDAnywhere. I'll be doing the ZONEMIX and BARIX along with Paul here, and the other guy on my right is Steve Small, who will be handling the HDAnywhere a bit later on. It's pretty informal. If you've got any questions during the presentations, jump in, because I know we've only got an hour for each of these. So if you've got any questions, just jump in with them and we'll answer them as best we can. Righto, let's head off ZONEMIX first of all, as you can see on your screens there. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with ZONEMIX at all, but I'll go through it. The ZONEMIX solution. ZONEMIX is a multi-zone audio mixer, a task manager and scheduler, and a paging solution. It will provide 4 or 8 zone mixing and paging with USB, Ethernet and RS-232 connectivity. There are optional wall panel accessories, dedicated paging stations, and the heart of it really is the comprehensive task management and scheduling engine with remote activation capability, and of course a PC application for setup and control of it. The ZONEMIX system includes the ZONEMIX 4 and the ZONEMIX 8. The ZONEMIX 4 is a 4-zone system and the ZONEMIX 8 is an 8-zone system. There are 3 control panels, the WP4R10 and the volume, and 2 audio input panels, the Bluetooth and the mic line input panel. And there is, of course, the software, which is part of it, and the paging stations, the ZMPS paging stations. Now, of course, the ZONEMIX can be set up and controlled via the software, but you can also do some basic work with it on the front panel of the unit from a control point of view. On the front of it, you've got 4 knobs. The knobs will allow you to select an output zone, adjust the input mix, in other words, what inputs are going to that particular zone. And when you've selected those inputs, you can then use the volume button to adjust the volume of either the master zone volume or the individual input volume. And you can also activate preset presets in it as well. And from those buttons, you can also get to your audio and system setup menus. There's a USB-C port for connecting your PC to it for setup. And of course, signal indicators for the inputs and active zones. And you'll see there an SD card slot. On that, you can put custom messages and tones, anything you can cram into a WAV file for announcements and what have you. On the back panel, you'll see on the left there on this particular picture, which is actually the ZONEMIX 8, there are 8 accessory ports, 1 for each zone. You've then got, what's this mouse going to work on this? There it is. And over here we've got our the line outputs. Now there's 8 connectors on this because it's the ZONEMIX 8. You will see the ZONEMIX 4 also has 8 connectors on it, because the ZONEMIX 4 can either be 4 mono zones or 4 stereo zones. So the ZONEMIX 4 can be set up as a stereo output, whereas the ZONEMIX 8 is purely mono. We also have on the back, of course, the mic line inputs. We've got here our mic line inputs, 4 line level RCA, and 2 mic line inputs with a balanced XLR and RCA there. And you can also set inputs 1, 2, or 6 as a priority input when you get into the priority management of the system. Built-in alert, evac, bell, and chime tones, and contact closure in and out. 8 on the ZONEMIX 8, as you see here, and 4 on the ZONEMIX 4. Control panels. As I said, there are 3 control panels, the WP4R10 and the WP Vol. You can have multiple control panels in each zone with the ZONEMIX. Now, you're not limited to 1 panel per zone as we were with the DigiPage and the ZONEMIX 3. You can have multiple panels in the one zone, and all of those control panels can be connected to one port if desired. So for ease of installation, as I'll be showing you a bit more later on, you can have 8 zones, control panel in each zone, all running off the one accessory port. And it's all done, and setting those up, it's a simple job of pairing them and programming them in the ZONEMIX software. The WP4R on the left there, as you can see, has 4 buttons and a rotary encoder. All of them are programmable. The WP10, the name gives it away, is 10 buttons. And the WP-Vol is a volume control. You set it in the software, which zone it's controlling, and the LEDs will follow the level of the volume level in that particular zone. All of our wall panels are now HPM style panels, so therefore they will take the Vivo coloured cover plates to spruce them up a bit if they need a different colour in the installation. When it comes to actually setting up and controlling the system with the control panels, the WP4 and the WP10 are incredibly flexible in what you can do with them. Each of the functions on the wall panels include zone master volume and mute control, input activation per zone, including local inputs. In other words, you can tell it what by a button push, which input is actually working in a particular zone. Input volume control per zone. So as well as controlling the master volume, you can also control the volume level of a particular input in a zone. Recall global presets. Pardon me. And also when we get into the task management engine, you can set up tasks or macros and activate those from the wall panels as well. Now they can either be global or zone specific tasks. And the scheduler as well. When you're working the scheduler, a wall panel can turn the scheduler on and off or activate a day override program if required. Paging stations, the ZenPS paging station. As you can see, it's got a slimline gooseneck microphone on it and 13 buttons. Each of those buttons can be programmed to perform a single zone page or a group page, or to trigger pre-recorded messages from the SD card on the front of the unit. Internal limiter helps guarantee voice clarity, and there's also a rear panel gain adjustment on the microphone. You can have multiple microphones off the one ZONEMIX, so you can customize the volume level to the person who's using the microphone if needed. Simple Cat5 cabling, and as I said before, you can have many paging stations all on the one system. Any questions on any of this so far? It's clear as mud. Audio panels.
So, question. Yeah. So with the EVAC, that's a full comprehensive EVAC built in. Like you wouldn't need anything external for the EVAC.
No, it's the built-in EVAC. That's the standard EVAC tones, EVAC and alert.
Yeah.
That you activate that via contact closure with a big red button or something. But yeah, if you don't like the built-in standard EVAC tone, you can override that with the SD card.
Right. Okay.
If you put a file on the SD card called evac.wav, it will then use that instead of the built-in one.
Okay.
That can come in handy at schools because a lot of primary schools don't like the standard EVAC tones because they tend to cause panic. The wall panels, the Bluetooth panel and the WPML. The WPBT, that's the Bluetooth panel, that is now Bluetooth 5.1, which means you've got up to 200 meters line of sight range to the panel, and a 3.5mm auxiliary input on it as well. Fully programmable within the software that allows you to give a name to the Bluetooth for the lot connection, the PIN number, and also what's going to happen to the registrations when you're finished with the meeting. Does it remember them or does it drop them out? And it's all set up via the software. The WPML has sorry about this, guys. This mouse is not cooperating with me. The WPML, 2 balanced XLR inputs that can be set to either mic or line, unbalanced RCA, and a 3.5mm input there. Now, with the ZONEMIX, although you can have multiple wall control panels per zone, you can only have one local input per zone. So you can have either a WPBT or a WPML. You can't have both. And when you put one of the wall control panels in the ZONEMIX, from that point of view, accessory port 1 is zone 1, accessory port 2 is zone 2, etc., etc. If you do want to be able to route a Bluetooth panel, which does come up, they want a central Bluetooth connection they can route anywhere. That can be done using the breakout box you can see in the bottom right there, and I'll be getting to that in a little bit. Now, to summarise what we can do with connecting wall panels to the ports. You can have up to 8 controllers per port. So each port can set up to 8 controllers, and in the software, you then tell that wall panel what each of those buttons is doing and what zones it is working on. And just as I don't know if I made the point earlier, when you're programming the wall panels, you can have one wall panel controlling multiple zones. For instance, a button on that, one button can be activating zone 1, another button can be sending a particular input to zone 3. That comes in handy in pubs and clubs situation, where they have wall control panels behind the bar and they want one panel to be able to control what's happening in different zones. And also for further control, hopefully very soon, it's currently in beta testing at the moment, we'll have the drivers for RTI controllers for this as well. The RS232. The person who's that's Scott Riley just entered the room. Say hi, Scott.
Hi.
And there we've got the audio ports for the audio inputs. And as I said, only one audio input per zone. Paging stations, up to 8 stage paging stations like the wall control panel can be put in one port at a time, and you can have multiple, but you can still have multiple paging stations in the installation. You can only run 8 of them off the one port. That is due to the Ethernet, the RS485, and the voltage out of each port. And of course, to finish off this bit, multiple things can be happening on the one port. You can have 1, 2, or 3 control panels, a few paging stations, but only one audio wall panel on the system. Additional panels. We also have in the Australian monitor range some additional panels that can help with the ZONEMIX installations. These are straight audio out. They don't go to an accessory port. They go to a line level input. A single XLR, a dual XLR, and a speak-on twist lock connector. Now these are all now genuine Neutrik connectors on these wall panels, and of course our standard 100-volt line volume controls. I've included these here to show that they're now all HPM designed wall panels that take the Vivo cover plates. So in the installation, if you're using all the Australian monitor products across the range, everything's going to look the same in the installation. More architect friendly. Righto, into the task management system. What I might try to do here is quickly jump into the software to show this to you a bit easier. So just bear with me for 2.5 seconds. Should have had this up and running before, guys. Apologies for this.
Do you have enough iterations of the software, Pete?
I've got 1 or 2.
Good.
Is that Tonto as well? Sort of. And Microsoft. You guys use Chrome. We migrate. Carry out the
That's better, thank you. Righto, I'll do the task. I'll do this on.
You put it out of reach.
Yeah, sorry. Damn it.
Close it and start again. There you go.
Gotcha. Right, for the task management, and I'm just going to give a quick overview of what you can do with it. We are running some webinars later this month, which you will have had invitations for. 2 of those where we'll be taking a much deeper dive into the setup and the programming of this on the 28th of March, on the 28th of February, and the 5th of March to give you a much deeper dive into this. But this is going to show you, hopefully, more easily the power of the what you can do with the task management system. When you're actually setting up a task, quite simply, you create the task, you then decide what that task is going to do. Adjust the volume level, and that can be either global or on an per input basis per zone. Again, mute or unmute, either global for a zone or to a specific input. Activate the built-in tones, chime, alert, evac, and then you can decide whether you want to play the complete tone or only play a section of it, and is there going to be any delay involved? Is it going to repeat, etc.? And of course, messages. To choose a message, choose the tone you want off the SD card, and then again, what zone is it going to? Do you want the full message, or do you want the just a short section of the message to be played? Now, you can activate those as an individual task, or you can set up a task group. So apologies for this is going through quickly. Just add the tasks to it. And that. They're the tasks, and it'll play those in order, 1, 2, then 3, and I can set delay after each of those if I want. And once I've set those up, to activate them, I can do them from the wall panels as I was showing you before, or I can put them into the scheduler. Now, this scheduler, as you can see, it's an Outlook style scheduler, so it's a familiar calendar view when you're setting this up, and you then just simply drop into here what time of day you want those particular tasks to do, or set up here a day group. Now, when I mentioned before that the wall panels can do a day override, if you're setting up a school, for example, and you've got a standard day, bells go off at 8:30, 9:40, 10:30, recess, then lunch, that's a standard day in the school. If it's a wet day where you don't want the tones to go off, or it's a student-free day, you can activate a day override, which can be either push button or a GPI that'll put in an override to whatever you want that override to be, no bells or whatever. So that's what the task management system does. And as you can see, it's quite a powerful and flexible tool with the schedule, within the ZONEMIX, and really opens up the applications that can be put into. So to summarize that, you set up what you want to do in the task management software, and then decide how you're going to activate that. Once all the tasks and task groups are done, you can trigger them from a scheduler, time, date-based activation, from the wall panel controls, or via the control contact closure input, the GPI with the big red button or such.
And you're able to export and import tasks and schedule. So can installer create a task schedule, export it from his end on the software and import it on the other end?
In a way, you can export the configuration file. Once you've set up a ZONEMIX, you can save that configuration file and upload that into another one. But you can't export a specific set of tasks if you're doing it on another ZONEMIX.
Okay.
You'd have to have a configuration.
Yeah, the entire ZONEMIX can be, including the schedules,
Yeah,
can be exported, but not just the schedules.
Yeah.
Other features of the software is matrix mixing setup, what inputs are going to what outputs at what levels on a per zone basis, a multi-level priority system. Now then again, I don't have the time to go through this in minute detail today, but we will be addressing this in the webinars, in the software webinar on the 5th of March. The priority configuration, that gives you multiple levels of priority, including inputs, paging and tones on a per zone basis, not just global. So you can have different priorities for different zones, which is handy for schools, function centres, clubs, bars, pubs, where things are going to be changing. And of course, the wall panel and paging station configurations are also done within that setup. Applications, what do you do with this thing? Here's a couple of applications that hopefully will show how all this can fit together to easily create what can be quite complex installations. I've seen that mouse. Now, what I've tried to show here, we've got a standard function 4-room function center. Each zone has a few speakers in it, run off a 4-channel power amp, an HS4250P in this case, and you've got some wall control panels in each room. That's a larger room, so we've got a Bluetooth input and a WP10 there, and just a volume control only over the other side. Now, each of these lines here represent a bus going back to the ZONEMIX. So you can see on this one, we have zone 1 and zone 2 all run off the one Cat5 cable looped through the installation. It doesn't care what zones they're in. You do that in the software, you tell it which particular zone that's working on. So that controller and that paging station are working on that bus, and over here on the other one, those two controllers in the same zone are working off another bus, and that greatly increases the flexibility of it.
The important thing to note with these runs, though, is that you can see each zone only has one BGM audio source. So there's only one Bluetooth wall plate or the XLR wall plate in zone 4, but you can still put paging stations on the same run. It actually uses a different part of the Cat cable for the paging station's audio.
Same idea, and I'll be giving this presentation to you guys too, of course. Same idea, except a little bit different. It's an 8-zone system using what could be a function centre or a large office block, where you've got an amplifier in each room or zone feeding the speakers, and a paging station and Bluetooth dedicated to each zone. And what is a reasonably typical school application? ZONEMIX at the front end in the office with a paging station, simply feeding out the power amps that will feed each building, with a control panel in each building to adjust what inputs are going to it and the volume levels in that building. Any questions on any of those? Nope. Suggested companion power amplifiers. Of course, I'm going to say the Australian monitor amplifiers. The HSP or the ISP series multi-channel amplifiers are ideal with this. The HSP series being reasonable basic amplifiers with mini DSP to give you matrixing, compression limiting, and a little bit of delay in 2x120 or 250 and 4x120 or 250. And then we've got the ISPs, which are full DSP amplifiers with Dante support as well. And they've got contact closure control, Ethernet control, and the full thing on them. And because they've got, you can set up presets in the ISP amplifiers for routing going for different inputs going to different outputs, have those presets activated via a control closure. So there conceivably, you can have a ZONEMIX and use the control outs to trigger presets in the ISP series as well. So if you've got a job where you want to start looking at room combining for different situations and that, then using the ISP amplifiers, you can look at achieving that. If you want to do a project like that and have questions on it, feel free to reach out to me or the TSS team and we can help you along the way with that. Now, just the add-ons. I mentioned before when we're setting it up that the Bluetooth wall panels plug into the accessory port on the ZONEMIX and it only works in that particular zone. However, if you've got an application where you want a Bluetooth wall panel to be routable, and this does come up in some bars and function center jobs, they want one Bluetooth wall panel that they can then decide which zones that's going to. Then simply use the breakout box and feed it into one of the line level inputs, and it could then be routable. Or, if you wish, plug those Bluetooth wall panels into anything else with a line level input. So any of the Australian monitor mixer amplifiers, or any other brand for that matter, to be honest, you can have the Bluetooth wall panels connecting into that as well with the same functionality and programmability. And coming very soon, hopefully early in March, we will have the TRUEBLU in stock. Now, this is effectively a WPBT in a contractor tool style box. The same functionality and features of the WPBTs, Bluetooth 5.1, 200 meters range, fully programmable. You tell it what the name is, what the PIN number is, what's going to happen when you disconnect, will it remember or dump those registrations? But it's also got RS-232 control and setup as well as USB. Now that means if you're putting it in a UC situation, and Scott and Paul may jump in here and correct me, if you're putting it in a UC situation and what the room control software, if the room control software is capable of RS-232, conceivably when you put the room, you can have the software program the name and the PIN of that room into the TRUEBLU that's in that room, and when the meeting's over, then dump it and forget that particular registration. And we'll have that hopefully early March. Any questions on any of this? Sorry, that was fairly quick, guys, but we've got a bit to get through and a short time to do it. All good? Cool. Now, I think have you guys done a bit with BARIX before down there? Do you know anything about it? Okay. Yeah. Again, I shall go through this quickly. I've got the two experts on the technical side of BARIX sitting next to me here. I'd invite them to jump in and add in, but I don't have to because they're going to anyway. BARIX. What is BARIX? BARIX is used to get audio from one point to another when all you have in the middle is a blue cable or a network. Quite simply, input side, you've got either paging, music, announcements, or what have you. And at the other end, you've got a stack of speakers or zones. BARIX provides you the ability to get the audio from the input to the output. If you think it sounds simple, that's really because it is. Now, the trick to BARIX, I feel, is when it comes to talking to customers about it, is to sell the solution, not the technology. Figure out what it is they want to do. With the BARIX systems, you can cover intercom and paging, school bells, announcements, integrating it with Bell Commander software, public announcements, and emergency systems. And that is one of the key markets we see for BARIX in Australia. Schools is a big part of what it does for us. Background music, in-store audio streaming from a head office to multiple stores, ad insertion. They also do products that do that. That is an emerging business in Australia. We're seeing more and more uptake on that and a lot of interest in it. And then some more niche areas, internet radio, audio to mobile phones, and audio transport system over SIP-based VoIP solutions. When it comes to starting off with BARIX, I always like to bring people back to questions. Now, you may get this with some of your customers coming in there. They come in with they wanted to do this, and they start telling you about the network, latency, RTP, multicast streams. They want all this. Get them to back up a bit. What is the application? Where is it going into? School, retail BGM, SIP, emergency notifications, etc. What is the source? Music, recorded announcements, paging, how many source points are there? And lastly, where's it going? One building, multiple rooms, retail outlets. Once you've got that, you've got the building blocks to start putting a system together for them to solve their problem and integrate with me and the TSS team to help you out with the best way to achieve that. The basic building blocks of BARIX is the in-streamer and the ex-streamer, and they're the building blocks of it, or if you like, electronic Lego. You've got the in-streamer and an ex-streamer. The in-streamer takes the audio in and encodes it, and the ex-streamer takes that encoded audio and decodes it to a line level or speaker level signal at the other end. You can have one in-streamer to one ex-streamer, a simple setup, one to many, or many to many, depending on what you need to do in the job. The in-streamer, it encodes the analog audio source, and it supports all of those protocols. So it's a very flexible product. Multicast, RTP, shoutcast, and icecast as well. RS2, and you can see it's on an RS232 serial port, and it's a simple 5-volt DC power supply. The Extremer M400. You guys, if you played with BARIX before, you may be aware of the Extremer 100, the older one. This is the new one, the IPAM 400 based Extremer. We still do the Extremer 100s, but this is a incredibly flexible unit. It's actually a little bit cheaper than the older Extremer 100, but what it can do is pretty spectacular. Up to 8 gig internal memory and a lot more features and frills on it. Do you want to expand on that at all?
For those who have used the Extremer 100 before and remember the way that you would have to change firmwares on the device to make it do different applications, the M400 has taken that idea and tried to roll all of their most common firmwares into a single unit now. So these days, with the newer hardware, the idea of changing firmwares for different applications isn't a thing anymore. It is much more you buy the unit that has all the features on it that you need it to do. It's much better for you guys when you're integrating or selling to integrators. The configuration is much more streamlined and it has a much more feature-rich setup for configuration. I also have a feeling, is it 8 gig or have they upgraded that? Because I know that there were some devices that were shipping with 32.
I've heard the same thing, but all I could find, it was 8 gig, so I went with that.
They're getting to the point where the storage capabilities on this is getting almost outrageous, in my opinion, because you're not likely to be storing really high-res waves on this. This is going to be MP3s or AAC or something lower file density. So the storage already is pretty wild, considering that they are also third-party controllable. So you can use this as a storage service to then trigger files for various play-out purposes as well.
Okay. And we now have amplified extremers. So these are boxes, they don't just have a line level output, they've got an active output, so you can connect them direct to a speaker and feed it, of course, with an in-streamer or a paging source. First of these, and one of my favorites, is the IP former. Now that is 6 watts output, it's PoE powered, and that little box there will connect directly to the transformer mounts of a ceiling speaker. I know it will work on a Australian monitor QF8 and QF6 because we've done it, or take the output directly into a flex speaker, run it over PoE, or put it on one of our paging horns or MP30 music horn. If you need more power, there is now the MPA 400. Now that takes everything that the Extremer M400 has. It'll do everything that Scott was just telling you about, but it's also got up to 40 watts output on a 4-ohm speaker output. And that can be PoE powered with a PoE plus switch for 40 watts? Or 40?
Yeah, no, you do need the full 4P PoE
Yep.
for 40 watts, but
if not, you can just use the 24.
But it will auto detect whatever PoE you give it and scale its output based on that. So it will take whatever PoE you give it and try to put as much of that power out of the speakers as possible.
Cool. And
it's also worth mentioning the IP former does also have the exact same features as the other two.
And Dante is now spoken here. BARIX now has Dante versions of the Extremer MPA 400, M400, and that IP former TPA 400. So a lot more jobs, including some schools, are wanting Dante on these, not just standard streaming. That gives you advantages for latency and all sorts of all sorts of advantages for an installation.
And flexibility, because the other thing that they're doing with their Dante implementation is using it as a bridge between even more technologies. So if you already had an existing Dante infrastructure, you could actually use the BARIX as a SIP gateway into the Dante network. So it can listen to the SIP in and put it out of its Dante system. So use it as an encoder for SIP to Dante. Or Dante to SIP. Can't remember which way around. Or both. They keep updating the firmware, so it keeps doing more and more stuff, which is really good.
Other additions in the range, in the BARIX range, and then again, I'm going through this a bit quickly for you. We have the paging stations, the Annunciacom, the PS Touch paging station, which can be set up for multiple zones and zone groups for paging. Plug it into the network, and it will talk directly to the BARIX endpoints. That is used a lot in our school installations. The little PS1 next to it is a single zone, single button paging station. And there's also Annunciacom. Now, Annunciacom will give you line level input to a system, but it's also a bit more flexible. It will take a microphone input, and it's integrated a lot into IP paging systems as well.
And intercoms.
And intercom, sorry. And intercom. And so you can set up intercom systems if you need to using the Annunciacom systems. Down there, you'll see the little barrier net boxes. There's 4 different versions of that. Now, effectively, what they do is give you control I/O, contact closures in and out, RS-232, 422 and 485 interface. These are used a reasonable amount in schools, again, to activate emergency tones, lockdown, or that sort of thing from big red buttons around the installation.
Or interfaces with fire panels.
Yep. Bell Commander. I've mentioned Bell Commander a number of times here. Bell Commander is software done by Acrovista. It is very handy, a very flexible tool. It will give you paging, notification, bells and chimes. You run it on a PC, and depending on which license version you get, you can run it as a simple PC application out of the sound card, or run it over a network directly to the BARIX points. It's a one-time license. It's not an ongoing subscription. You buy it once and job done, and set it up. It'll allow you to place school, factory bells, announcements over your existing PA, schedule those audios, the audio announcements, or send live audio pages to the PCs around the organisation or the network, and the control the systems or bells using our USB relay controllers like the BARINET 50.
Similarly to the BARIX devices, as I mentioned, SIP to Dante bridging, for instance, Bell Commander likewise has a number of different protocols that it can bridge or support. So if you have a system that needs to integrate phone paging out to BARIX devices, as well as live bells, as well as a host of other things, we can use Bell Commander again as a way to ingest a lot of those different sources and encode it to single network streams to simplify a head end versus an endpoint solution. Generally, with Bell Commander in particular, the best thing to do, similar to BARIX, which is figure out what sources you need, what endpoints you need, and what languages you need them to speak, and give Paul or myself a buzz, and we can figure out what the best approach to solving that is and how to bridge those different technologies together. We've done it a lot, and they're very robust systems. We generally, once configuration is completed, the only times that we get tech support calls on this is when someone goes and changes the network infrastructure, and then we have to go back and re-engineer some stuff. But as long as you don't touch it, it keeps going for a long, long time. And we have a lot of old deployments still out there that won't fall over, because unless you dick with the network, it's generally going to stay doing the same thing for a long time.
Pretty much. Okay, putting all this together in a basic school application. Simple school, reception, administration building over here, and 3 different rooms and a play area in the middle. The PS Touch paging station feeding into the network, giving paging and announcements out to each of the zone, and the Bell Commander software running on a PC, also in the administration block. We have here, feeding to the internals on the school, an Extrema M400 going into an Australian monitor amplifier, running the speakers in each of the rooms. We have externally an IP former. The IP former driving those horns, an M400, MPA 400 driving those. Also in here is something I haven't spoken about yet. That is a simple device called a paging gateway, and that will allow a mobile phone to be used as a paging source into the system. So in other words, teachers in a schoolyard can give announcements and pages from within the schoolyard without having to run back to the administration block to do it. And lastly, we have the little Barionet 50 there connected to it with a big red button to activate announcements, evac, integrate with the fire panel, all that sort of thing. And that is it for BARIX. Any questions?
Good morning, everyone. This will just be a very high view introduction to HDAnywhere, who they are and what they do, just as a quick overview. So we're not going to dig deep into the different areas, but by the end of this, hopefully you're going to know the company and have a good feel for the type of products and what they do. So who is HDAnywhere? They established in 2006 in the UK, and their goal was to design and manufacture and support AV technology that's reliable, useful, easy, and it's designed really just to neaten up your AV technology situations. They're a British company, privately held, and they're an active member of the CEDIA Industry Association. And what does HDAnywhere do? Basically, it's cables, 4K and 8K cables, HDMI extension, video distribution, audio distribution, and whole home AV. And whole home, by that, they'll actually also do light commercial work as well. So resi-mercial, I guess, is a way of calling that. So just very quickly at the cable level, as I say, they do 4K and 8K cables. That's actually where the company started in 2006. They started as a cable company, and then the extensions and video distribution, everything else has come out of that. And in that cable category, they've got, in the 4K cables, they've got a 0.5 metre to 5 metre, just in a standard passive copper cable. You can see they're in a nicely packaged but slim bag that can go into a van, or can be sold at retail. Good value. They're our best-selling range, and it covers most of the areas you're going to need for common installations. With the 8K cables, again, they do one range which is copper, and that's the 0.5 metre to the 4 metre, and all their 8K cables are fully certified by HDMI.org, and all of them have got the features to fully support HDMI 2.1. They do a couple of longer cables. These ones are not copper. These ones are now an optic fibre cable with a slightly larger head being powered through the HDMI. But from an end user point of view, just looks like a HDMI cable, obviously, but a slightly larger head on that one. And they do that in a 10, a 15 and a 20 metre. Another quick thing on cables, with those 4K introductory slimwire max cables, they're going to introduce those in what they call a big box as well. So as well as being available individually, they'll do a master box of 25 of each of those 4K cables from the 0.5 metre to the 5 metre. Really handy for guys to pop in their van or, have on site 25 cables in one box. So that's coming as well. With extenders, this is another really big area for HDAnywhere. It's a fairly concise, small little range, but it'll cover basically everything you're going to need to do. And they've got 4K, they've got 2K, and they've got an audio extender. In the 4K extenders, it's really pretty straightforward. There's a 4K to 40 metres, a 4K to 40 with arc, a 4K to 100, or a 1 in, 4 out to 40 metres over HD-based T. They've got two 2K extenders, little tiny 2K to 30 metre or a 2K to 150 metre. All these extenders are in an aluminium case and they're all super duper light. And in the carton for each of those, there's going to be the rack ears if you need them. If it handles IR, and they all do at least do IR return, there'll be receivers, there'll be an emitter. It's all in the box as part of it. The reason they build them so light and out of aluminium is while all those rack mounting ears and things are in the box, they kind of know a lot of installers are just going to plug it in the back of the telly and probably let it hang or use a bit of Velcro or two-way tape. So by being super duper light, you haven't got a lot of weight hanging off the back of that. And then the aluminium case, it's designed as a heatsink. So very handy, helps with the install and long-term reliability because it is nice and light. The audio extender over Cat 5 up to 300 meters. It's got an analog or digital in, and it will give you analog or digital out. So very quick overview of some of the extenders. Our best seller is our 4K to 40 meters. And just there you can quickly, as an overview, see it's a really good value product. It has got IR return. That one doesn't have the two-way IR and RS-232, but we have other models that do if you needed that. But this solves a huge number of the problems, 4K to 40 meters with IR return. And that is our best-selling product and really great value. 4K to 100 meters, again, just as a sort of comparison to what else is out in the market. This one does have two-way IR and 232. And again, very competitive within the marketplace. Small little light box, and that's also a really good seller for us. 4K to 40 meters with ARC. This guy is fraction dearer than an example, in this case, the Blue Stream, but you'll see the HDAnywhere one is 4K 60 hertz 444, so it's full 18 gig 4K with ARC return on it. 4K extender. This is where you need one source to go out to 4 screens, up to 4 screens, up to 40 meters away at 4K, or you can go up to 70 meters at 1080p. And with HDAnywhere, if there's a HD-based T output on, in this case, the extender, or in their matrices, as we come to those, in the carton will be the receiver to suit that. You don't have to buy that separately. So when you buy that product, you go to site, it's ready to go. So, and again, you can see that one's fantastic value. They're 2K extenders. The little 2K30 is just palm size. It's a tiny little product. Get out of jail free to have in your van. IR return on it. Again, those are in the box. A lot of these products you can see on that one have got the loop through in the HDMI, so you don't lose your local HDMI. You've still got a local HDMI and extension. 2K to 150, again, really great value product. And again, we've got two-way IR and 232 on that one. And then the analog and digital audio extender. So that'll do up to 300 meters. And you can feed digital into that, and there is a DAC, and you can get analog out at the other end, or you can feed analog in and get analog out. There's got a whole range of video distribution matrixy type products, and all their range is called an M-Hub. And I won't go through them all here, we just haven't got time, but just know that they've got a whole range. There's about 7 different models, from a simple 4-in, 2-out product to a 16x16 that's coming. So what sets HDAnywhere apart? One of the things is, as I said before, when you buy an M-Hub, everything you need when you go to site from the M-Hub's point of view is in the box. So that's the little rackies for each of the receivers, the actual main unit, any IR products that for extenders, receivers and emitters, a simple remote control. That's all in there when you get to site. Again, it makes a great value and it makes it a simple, easy install. And these guys come from an install background, so they know what it's like to get to site if you haven't got everything there. The other big thing for HDAnywhere is, in a lot of projects, if you haven't got a full control system there, how do you simply work out what source is going to what zone? How do you control that? And it can be a pain in the ass. And of course, it comes with a little remote control in the box. No one's going to use that. There are front panel buttons. No one's going to use that. You really need some sort of control. So one of the things HDAnywhere's got that really does set it apart is this U-Control, which is built into any M-Hub product. All that simply means is that on an Apple phone or a tablet, you can get onto the network and you can do basic control. Now, if you need to control extensively across the site or that room, you need a control system, and HDAnywhere's got all the common drivers to work with that control system. But if you just need to control some of the displays, sources, there is some basic lighting control starting to come, then you don't need to buy anything else but that M Hub. That's inside there for you. Use your phone, use your tablet, you've got basic control. That you will use, whereas the remote and the front panels you're unlikely to use, but they are there. So that really sets HDAnywhere apart when it comes to video distribution. That's just a really quick overview of sort of what they've got. You can see there's a 4 in, 2 out at the top, right down to a 16 by 16. They've got stackable versions of these, which will go 8 in to 32 out. It's quite a, again, concise, clean range, but it's going to cover basically everything you'll ever come across. So that's a very quick, simple overview of HDAnywhere. We can definitely go into much deeper detail with that at a later date. But has anyone got any questions on HDAnywhere?
Yeah, with the eARC, does it support eARC at all?
Yes. Yeah, it does. So the HDMI cables support it. Sorry, I can't take it back. HDMI cables support eARC. The extender does not support eARC. The HDMI extender is just straight ARC.
So none of the range support eARC?
No, there's not eARC in there, only the cables.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that a roadblock? Is that a big...
Yeah, a lot of well, Samsungs, because they get because I want to leave sides, I want to control one remote. That's what I want to use. So yeah, Bluestream have got a few more. Yeah. So it's pretty
we've
important.
got an eARC product within Amber. We've got an eARC product. So Wirestorm doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the Wirestorm offering, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as you guys do, there's similar offerings in Wirestorm as well. But,
yeah, excellent. Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So we can cover you with that if need be. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks so much, Amber. Thanks for your time, everyone. I hope it was valuable.
That was great. That was great. Thanks.
We've got